We're going to start the Parsha of the week. This week we have two parashiot, Matot-Masei, and like every other Parsha of the Torah, there are so many subjects we can talk about, so many lessons we can learn from. So the beginning of the Parasha talks about Nedarim. It's a very important mitzvah. It's the reality that we create with our words. It's called the neder. Neder means a vow, promise. I spoke about this a few nights ago, a couple of times, that making a promise with your mouth is very powerful. When we say something, it becomes a reality. Very famously, Gemara says, just like a person is not allowed to eat non-kosher meat, if you say this food, I make a neder to be, or make a swear that this is asur, this is forbidden to me, like it becomes non-kosher, even though it's real kosher food. You can make a new reality. So the Torah says when you make a neder to Hashem, you have to keep it, whatever it is. For example, someone says, I make a neder to eat an apple a day. If he doesn't do it, it's as if he didn't put on tefillin that day, because he made a neder to do a mitzvah. It becomes a real mitzvah. And it's not a mitzvah. You made a neder to do something, you have to do it. It's as if the Torah told you to do it, even though it doesn't say you have to eat an apple. Words, are so powerful, so effective. So there's a special way of talking in the Torah this week. The Torah doesn't say as a normal, Hashem told Moshe to tell the Jews. Usually the Torah, every parasha, every chapter, every mitzvah begins with saying Hashem spoke to Moshe, tell Jews this is the mitzvah I want them to do. In this parasha, it says, Moshe Israel. He spoke to the head of the tribes of the Jewish nation. What is Hashem doing? And this is what Hashem commanded me, but not a regular way of opening of Hashem spoke to Moshe saying. So why is only Moshe talking, not a regular Hashem talking to Moshe? Number two, why is he talking about Rashi Hamatot, to the head of the tribes? We don't see that usually. Usually Hashem told Moshe, tell every Jew. So the head of tribes are included. The other people are included. The sages are included. Everything is included. Why only over here talking about head of the tribes? So Rashi explains very simply. He says, just like you see, the presidents of every tribe were first to hear it in this mitzvah. The same thing as every other mitzvah. Every time Hashem told Moshe to do something, to say something, he would first tell the presidents, tell the heads. They hear it, they learn it, they teach other people. So you see from here that it's very, that was the order of hierarchy of Moshe talking to people. We talk first to the heads and then talk to other people. So Ramban says that neder is so powerful and such a complicated mitzvah, Hashem didn't want Jews to take it lightly. So if we study the Torah, we learn sometimes the father can nullify the neder of his daughter if the young daughter is not a bat mitzvah yet, right? A husband can nullify certain vows of his wife if she made a vow to make, to do something that would suffer to do it, or something that would affect Shalom Bayit, or something that would affect her relationship with the husband is allowed to nullify. We'll talk about it a little bit later. So if you tell everybody about this, you say, okay, I make a neder, I tell my dad, can't say I don't want it, we'll be nullified, or I'm going to ask my husband to nullify it. So we're going to make something very lenient, in people's eyes. So Hashem said, tell the heads only. I don't want this to be a very popular thing. I don't want people to know the details that you could actually nullify a neder. If somebody made a neder, he's supposed to go to three people It used to be that you could go to one rabbi and Yachid Mumche, a person who was very an expert, he could nullify the neder for you. But Gemara says already, even in the time of Gemara, we need 3 people. So you ask 3 people, can you nullify the words that I said? It's so important that a person shouldn't have a neder hanging over his head. That's why before Rosh Hashanah, we do Hatara Nedarim. We ask 3 people to sit down. The shul stands up. They ask the 3 people, can you nullify any neder that we made? We have forgotten, maybe we made a neder, we didn't keep it, or we're supposed to keep it, we don't want to keep it anymore. So it says that Hashem is not going to accept your tefillah if you don't act what He said. So if the power of tefillah comes from your mouth, so let's see what other, things that your mouth promised have accomplished. If you haven't done what you said, so don't use the same mouth to talk to me. So if you say something, you have to be committed to it. So do it. So that's why we ask the Bedin, the 3 people sitting, can you nullify? We regret we made the neder and we didn't keep it. In general, it's not a good idea to make a neder. A person should always say, Beli neder. Especially when it comes to a mitzvah, I would say, Beli neder, I would like to do it. But Beli neder, because you don't want to commit to something you can't do, then you have to do it. Some people are angry. They're upset. They make vows. I'm making it. I will never ever do this for you. I'm going to harm you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Very important. You have to always keep calm, keep cool, and when we'll see later on, when a person is angry, you should not make comments because we always regret decisions that we make. B'shat ka'as. So when a person is angry, you should just drink a cup of cold water. Walk away, calm, relax, and then come back to do it. We'll see about the war with Midian that Moshe got angry. It wasn't a good thing. So one of the commentaries says, I once heard this, that why Moshe told this to the heads of the tribes, to the presidents, because as we see all the time, the presidents are the ones who make a lot of promises, right? In order to get elected, you always have to promise people, do this for you, do this for you. So Moshe said, if you make a promise, you have to keep. If you have a campaign promise, make sure you fulfill it. So that's why Moshe spoke to the Rosh Matot, the head of the tribes. You will make promises. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to, bring this for you. So do what you promised. Another thing, he says here, I studied some of my friends' writings. He says that why Moshe had to speak to head of the tribes. Because Moshe himself knew how words are so powerful. He was teaching other people that the words are so powerful. Why? Because if you go back a few parshas, in Parshat Chukat, Hashem told Moshe and Aaron, take the stick, the staff, and go talk to the rock, right? So Parshat Chukat, he says that take the mate means the mate could mean the tribe, also could mean staff, and go and talk to the rock because I want to make a miracle, and ask the rock to give water without hitting it. He didn't say without hitting it, just said speak to the rock. And we know the famous story, Moshe and Aaron did not listen to Hashem completely. They gathered people, they took the stick, and they actually used the stick. Instead of talking to the rock, they hit the rock. Hashem said, I didn't like that. I told you, I want you to speak to the rock, not hit the rock. So commentators ask that if Hashem didn't want him to speak to the rock, only speak to the rock, why did you ask them to take the stick? When you have a staff in your hand, you want to use it. You want to move the rock. Say, get water, get the water out. Are you trying to set up Moshe Rabbeinu to fail the mission? And he failed it. And he this is the only thing that he did wrong. And Hashem, we can't go to Israel anymore. It's not fair. Hashem is telling Moshe to do something, and he kind of misguiding him. So one of the commentators says that no, Hashem wanted to show a very big lesson. Moshe, go take the stick, right? But I want you to speak to the rock. I want people to know, as a leader, you don't have to force people to do something. You should be able to talk to people, and they should listen. Words should be so powerful that when the leader Moshe Rabbeinu says something, it shouldn't be a forceful mitzvah. It would be a miracle anyways, right? When he, the rock, and tons of water comes out, and people drink, and the whole nation drinks, it's a big miracle. If so much water behind the rock, why didn't it come out before? So it's a miracle taking place anyways, but Hashem wanted to make the miracle through talk, not a force. Right? And that was a very big lesson that Moshe learned, that, wow, you could talk to people. You don't have to always use my stick, you have my force, my authority. A very big lesson for people in leadership. You have to be able to ask people, and they should follow it. You should always have unfortunately, some people don't get it. You have to, we once had a problem with putting mechitza for Yom Kippur. Right? We have to have mechitza. No, they took down the mechitza on Yom Kippur. So next year, I called them and said, you know what, this is my plan. We're going to have mechitza. It's certain that if you put it up, I'm going to take it down. Well, why can't we just talk about something? This is our policy, it's our standard. We put the mechitza on. Should follow the mechitza. She followed the policy of mechitza. She was very angry. She said, no. I'm going to bring a scissor if you put the mechitza up. If I put the curtain, I'm going to take down the curtain. So I hired a security guard, and since then I've had security guards. He said, if somebody touches the mechitza, I didn't say that. I said, if somebody doesn't follow, then you have a security guard to make sure the order will be followed. But it's wrong. You shouldn't get to that, especially in America. You should be able to talk to people. America is a country of force. Most people follow the rules. You tell this is the rule, this is the law, this is how we made the people follow. That was a very big lesson for Moshe. Moshe was supposed to convey that message to people. I'm not going to hit anyone. I'm not going to hit the rock. I'm going to talk to the rock, and the rock will listen to me. And if a rock listens to words, why don't you guys listen to words of God? Why Hashem has to punish you and force you to? Hashem never forces, but why do you have to go through a hard way, learn in a hard way? Easy way. Moshe Rabbeinu himself learned in a hard way that words matter. If you could use words as powerful as a stick, more powerful as a stick. So it says that's why Moshe spoke to the leaders, and he said, I learned my lesson. Words matter. Words are powerful. You could have, if I had used my own words instead of my staff, my stick, right? I could have gone to Israel too. But I'm stopped, unfortunately. I can't go in. Hashem blocked me because I was forceful. I wasn't talking. So the message is that words matter, and words are very effective. As much as nowadays the politics, it's a diplomacy. You could have a diplomatic relationship without the force. Sometimes the only way is to use force. But why should you go through military force? You could talk about it and work something out. That's when Moshe spoke, and not Hashem directly. Moshe was the candidate because he said, I know you could do things through the words. Hashem has taught me a very big lesson in a hard way. I learned it. So that's why he says, Rashi Hamatot, head of the tribes. There's another term for this. Nasi also is president, head. So Rashi Hamatot, Matot comes from Mate, from staff, from the stick, right? So Mate and Matot are the same roots. They have different meanings. So Moshe was giving the message that you can use your words. You're the heads of don't be heads of sticks. Don't use sticks to lead people. Use your words. Very important. Whoever is in leadership position shouldn't use his stick. He shouldn't. A person should be able to talk, and people should be able to follow the rules by just hearing them, not using force. So one of so we learned about the Parsha of Nedarim. Person makes a neder, has to keep it. As I said, if a lady made a neder, if she's not bat mitzvah yet, her father can make a hataran nedarim, could nullify the neder. If she's married, um, then her husband can nullify the neder. If she's engaged, which was an official engagement back in the time, uh, she was like half married. She wasn't married fully. She didn't go under the chuppah. But nowadays, when a girl gets engaged, they're officially engaged. We don't, even though she gets the ring is not a ring of engagement as Torah views it. It's a gift that, it's a sign that you are mine. Back in the time, what we do under the chuppah, we give a ring to the girl, and then we put the, tzitzit on, and we make 7 brachas, right? That's the time she gets engaged, actually. Kiddushin, that's when we give bracha, Kiddushin at the time. Engagement, legal engagement from the Jewish perspective, is when she has 2 witnesses watching her getting the ring, right? And he has to say, I'm giving you the ring in order to be engaged to me. If God forbid they break up, she has to get a divorce, because that's a very real engagement. Back in the time, they used to make 2 different events. One was an engagement party, or engagement ceremony. He would give her a ring, right? But he couldn't leave her there because he's not married to her yet. And after 6 months, 2 months, 8 months, a year, up to 2 years, he would marry. He would make a chuppah. He would bring her to his domain. He would make the 7 brachas that we make, write the ketuvah. So Torah talks about in that period of time, engagement part, kiddushin part. If she makes a neder, both her husband and her father have to nullify the neder in order not to work, not to take place anymore. So again, all these things, with the whole age group, if she's already an adult, she makes her own decisions. Nobody can nullify her neder anymore. So all these cases are before bat mitzvah. If she is bat mitzvah, or she decides for herself, if she wants to nullify her promise, she has to go to 3 rabbis and ask her, like any other person, that I made a neder and I don't want to do it anymore. So I wanted to say 2 lessons from here. One is Rashi brings down an interesting case. He said that let's say a lady or a girl made a neder, made a vow, made a promise, and she said, I make a vow I will not drink wine anymore. And her husband or her father, depending on the case, heard it right away. And by the way, Torah says only within the day that they hear it, they have to nullify it. If they wait till it's dark, they lost the chance. Same day, the husband or the father says, I don't accept it. I'm breaking the neder. I don't want the neder to take place. The neder goes away. What do you mean? So when he hears it, the day that he hears it, right? Biyom Shema Isha, the day that not the day she made the neder, the day he hears it, let's say he made a neder on Monday, he had it on Wednesday, right? Wednesday till dark, he has time to say, I don't accept the neder, I want it to be nullified. Let's say he did it, right? But she didn't know. Wednesday afternoon, she decided to go drink wine. I want to break my neder. She goes and she drinks wine, and she goes home. The husband of, what? I heard today you made a neder not to drink wine. I broke it for you. Nullified. So thank God. I thought I'm doing something wrong. But really, when I drank the wine, I wasn't supposed to drink. I drank it anyways. But now I see it was a neder anyways. You nullify the neder. I'm okay. So it says that you have to ask for forgiveness. You made something wrong, even though that practically speaking you didn't do anything wrong, but your intention was to do something wrong. You need selicha, you need atonement. You have to ask for forgiveness. Hashem has to forgive you. Rashi says, you see, even though that only the intention was wrong, but the action was actually okay, right? It makes such a big difference that you have to ask Hashem because you want to do something wrong, but it didn't happen. So how much more so when a person has the intention wrong and an action wrong, how much more so a person has to ask for forgiveness, right? Meaning, somebody goes, I'm going to eat this sandwich anyways. He says, non-kosher sandwich from a non-kosher restaurant. I don't care. I eat it anyways. He said, it was good. Then the father comes in, actually I bought it from Jeff's, it was from kosher place. Oh, thank God, No, it's not thank God. You did something wrong. You want to do something wrong. You have to ask for forgiveness, right? How much more so somebody actually goes over to a non-kosher sandwich place, I want to buy and eat it. How much more so he has to ask for forgiveness. So Rashi says even the intention of doing something wrong, even though the action itself was okay, but intention of doing something wrong, the person, it harms your neshama. You have to ask for forgiveness. The Torah says another case too. The Torah says if somebody, let's say the husband or the father heard it, they have a chance to say accept or decline. The husband said, I accept it. It's okay. I want the neder, I want the promise to take place. Then you can't change your mind anymore. If you accept the offer, the neder, it's done. She has to keep it. If she doesn't want the neder anymore, she has to go to the rabbi and say, can you nullify for me? Let's say after half an hour, I want to let go. I want to decline the neder. She can't. He goes to his wife and says, don't worry, I heard it today that you made a neder not to eat wine and drink wine or not eat meat, whatever the neder is, you're good. I declined it. I broke it. I nullified for you. She's so happy. I'm free. I can go eat or drink. And she goes and she eats and she drinks. Torah says, Pasuk Zayin, if he nullifies it after he hears it and after he accepts the offer and he goes back and says, what? It's still not dark. I want to decline this. I don't want it. But you already accepted it. You carry his sin. Her sin. That means you get punished for it. She doesn't know. You're telling her your neder is okay. I nullify your neder. You're good to go. Do what you want. But you did it wrong. You didn't accept it the right way. You should have said no right away, or if not, send her to a bedin, to a rabbi, to a few rabbis. So Torah says, "V'nasa'et avona." You carry her avon, her mistake, her sin. So Rashi says, you see from here, our Chachamim learn that if somebody causes somebody else to do a sin, you get punished for it. Somebody, let's say, especially this is very important when people work in kosher business, right? And people trust you as an organization. You certify this business. I don't check the business anymore. I don't check the meat, where it comes from, who cooked it, what was involved, what the ingredients are. It says, you, okay, Star K, RCC. I trust you. I trust the organization. And the guy knows. It's kosher, of course. We trust him, the trustworthy person, right? And I eat. So, but God knows that this guy put something non-kosher in there. Who gets the punishment for it? Right? Someone who certified it, someone who says, trust me, it's okay. Let's say people are eating meat, and I serve something dairy. It's parv, it's okay. You could eat it. Because I'm embarrassed to say I don't have a parv, chocolate spread, or I don't know, dessert, or coffee creamer. If I don't say it, that this is not parv, don't eat it. Then I'm taking a big responsibility. I'm responsible what other people are doing wrong. So a person causes other people to do something wrong. I don't know if you heard this story in Monsey. There was a case here in LA too, a few years ago. I was here in LA when this happened. There was a Pico, and Pico there was a big meat place. And the guy unfortunately sold non-kosher meat for a long time, making a very big profit. Somebody called him, a competitive company called him. The prices don't make sense. How can you sell so cheap? We can't compete. So they hired an investigator. Somebody would go around and put cameras. They found out middle of the night after the mashgiach would go home. The guy would come. He had the extra key he wasn't supposed to have. Only mashgiach opens the fridge and closes the fridge to make sure it's under the kosher certification. The extra key, obviously. Oh, he has a emergency key. Open the truck. Boom. Put in all the meat. Take off the labels. Nobody knows. They thought it's coming from a kosher place. They will sell it for years. It's a very big thing here in LA. The question: do you have to kosher your kitchen now? You ate, unfortunately, but what happens to my utensils? Many caterings bought from him because of the cheapest meat in town. Good meat, fresh meat, and cheap meat. But very terrible place. Worse than that was a guy in Monsey who also did. He sold tons, and he was a very religious guy. You couldn't tell. He looks like a rabbi, very religious. His children, the children didn't talk to the father anymore. They were so embarrassed in public. Children learn in yeshiva in Israel, married children, grandchildren. It's an unbelievable case. We'll talk about this soon. But money sometimes, blinds the people. They don't see the terrible thing I'm doing. I heard there was a Rosh Hashiva in New York. He said, even through Holocaust, I ate grass in Holocaust. I ate, tree leaves because I didn't want to eat non-kosher. Whatever the Nazis gave us was non-kosher. I worked in camps for years. I didn't eat non-kosher, but this guy actually fed me non-kosher. I trusted him. I said, the meat comes out of here, it's kosher. And he gets... So the problem is that when a person eats non-kosher, when he doesn't know, our heart gets some... it covers the heart. It unfortunately takes the purity of heart of neshama away. Even though we don't know, I didn't know, but naturally, a non-kosher food has an effect on neshama without us knowing it. So maybe I don't get punished for it because I didn't know. I trusted the hechsher, the kosher company, the kosher agency. But end of the day, I ate something that wasn't kosher, right? So this rabbi, she was very, very upset. He said, all my life I ate grass. I didn't eat non-kosher. How could this guy give me non-kosher food? But Rashi says, if somebody causes somebody else to do a sin, you get all the punishment for it. You didn't know. So we can't say it's not my fault. It's their life. They should know better. No, if they're trusting me, right? And most people, they go to shul, they trust the rabbi. They think the rabbi knows what he's doing. They don't say anything better, right? Or go to a restaurant, you go to a wedding. To a wedding, I always suggest ask. Don't trust the host because you never know. Something the host doesn't know. I've been to the events that I'm so happy that I asked. It wasn't a very good kosher certification that at least I don't hold by. I have a policy. This kind of kosher I buy. So it's good to ask. Sometimes everybody's eating, so it must be okay. That's what everybody's thinking. Everybody's hoping that since everybody else is eating, it must be okay. But nobody asks. Ask the caterer, who is the caterer, who's the kosher agency, who is on top of it. They always have somebody back there could come and choose and say, they don't have to be a rabbi, but they have to be a religious guy who knows what's happening in the kitchen, who knows how they're catering the food. They don't mix up utensils with the hotel utensils, with the host. What's going on here? And we have had if you're careful enough, you ask enough times, you understand. Hashem sends special help to do the right thing, and people come up. You find cases, unfortunately, that people are doing wrong, either knowing or not knowing, and they, or has a wrap kosher, but where does kosher come from? You have to verify it. Don't trust people saying kosher. It has to be verified. So that's the first part of the parsha of Nedarim. Okay, so we have different. So we have the war with Midian. Torah says that Hashem told Moshe, the last war you do is to take the revenge from the Midian. We learned in a week or 2 weeks ago that Midian, they had a leader of Bil'am. Bil'am was the one who suggested they should send non-Jewish girls to the Jewish camp. This way they make the Jewish men sin, and tragedy will happen. So 24,000 people were killed through tragedy of the sickness. And Hashem said, because they send their daughters, I don't want anyone to leave. So Hashem wanted to get rid of them. Um, so it says that when they wanted to recruit soldiers, they had to force people to send soldiers. They were supposed to have 12,000 soldiers, 1,000 soldiers per tribe. So she says, why did they have to force people to get out of they hated the Midianites because 24,000 Jews died because of them. So why did they have to go, force people to get out of their home to recruit and send them to the army? So she says, because they loved Moshe Rabbeinu. Hashem said, this is the last war you do. They knew if he does the war, it's the end of his life. The last mission he did was to take revenge for Jews, for Midianites, for Midianim. So she said, we're not going to go to war now. Let's delay it. 5 years, 10 years. No rush. We don't want to lose Moshe Rabbeinu. But she says, you see how much Jews love their leaders, even though they always got in a fight with Moshe Rabbeinu, they always complained. Moshe said, they're almost killing me. I don't know what to do. Every move I do, they always have something against me. But when one came to the time that they heard that death of Moshe depends on this war, they didn't want to go. Said, no. We want to keep Moshe Rabbeinu as long as we can. Moshe said, we have to do it. God said so, we'll do it anyways. But it shows the love of Jews for Moshe Rabbeinu and their leaders. So after the conquering the Midian and killing all their people, if you read the Torah, they saved the girls. Moshe got angry. He said, "What did you save the girls?" Right? They are the ones who actually made they made the Jews sin, and the girls were the cause of all the problems. So the Torah, Hashem tells Moshe what to do, had to get rid of girls. If it was a girl who had relations with men, they killed her, and if it was a girl who didn't have anything, they let her go after the war. But I wanted to bring back the angry part, anger, how bad anger is. He says that the next part, when Moshe got angry at the soldiers, why did you keep the ladies alive? He says, right? By the way, the Torah says here the mitzvah of koshering your dishes, right? You have a commandment. If the utensil is not kosher, you cannot use only kosher utensil. And we have a commandment that you have to wash it in mikveh. We learn with this parsha. And it's in Shelishi of Matot. So he says that Elazar talked to the people. Why? What happened to Moshe? So Rashi says because Moshe got angry, he forgot what to tell people, what the rule is. Elazar, let me talk to them. Elazar was the head of he was the Kohen Gadol at the time, because after Harun, he became the Kohen Gadol. So you see, anybody who gets angry, even including Moshe Rabbeinu, you could make mistakes, you could forget things. I think Ben Ish Chai explains because for a person to make the right decision, you need to use your brain. And in order for your brain to work, you need Hashem's help in your brain. When you get angry, Hashem depart from a person. Hashem doesn't like angry people. Anger is one midah, character that God hates the most. anger and ego, gava. These two Hashem hates very, very much. So when a person gets angry, when Shai says Hashem is not in your mind anymore, he flies away. Then you are making a decision on your own. Yeah, you're probably going to make a mistake. If you want Hashem to help you to make the right decision, to say the right rule, make sure you're not angry when you're making a decision. First, you should not make any decision when he's angry. And you should not get angry, but once he's angry, after the fact, no decision being made. So even Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't rule at the time, and Elazar took over. So now, end of Matot talks about Jews actually about to enter Esther, making the last plans. She's making the last speeches. So there were two tribes, or 2.5 tribes. Reuven, Gad, and half of Menashe. They came to Moshe and said, Moshe, we got a problem. What's the problem? We see a huge land that we went through a few wars. So if you go through a war and you win, the land becomes yours. So we got these big lands here, and it's a good place for our cattle. We have a lot of cows, we have a lot of animals. And do you mind if you stay here? You don't want to come to the actual Eretz Israel, land of Israel. Can we stay this side of Jordan River? We're not going to cross. You got a portion in the land of Israel, the other side of Jordan. Give it to our other tribe. Oh, we are okay. We'll give up our portion. Can we stay here? Right? Moshe Rabbeinu got very upset. He said, is this fair? Your brothers are going to go to war for 7 years. You relax. We did the war for you. And you want to stay free? You want to be out of this whole war? It's not fair. Why are you going to melt the heart of Jews? It's not. They're going to get afraid. They don't know you're staying here for the field, for the grass, for the land part. You're saying, you don't want to go to the war because you're going to fight the 7 nations. There's so many different kings over there, different tribes. You know what happened before? 40 years ago, I sent spies. They came back. They melted the heart of Jews too, and Jews cried. Hashem got very angry and said, no Jew will enter Israel if you're above 20 years old. So for 40 years, we just, watch people dying because Hashem is waiting for everyone to die and the next generation to go to Israel. Don't do that. Please, don't even mention it. We are not going to go, everyone together to Israel. It's not fair you stay here and we all, 9.5 tribes go in, 2.5 tribes will enjoy, freedom and no war. That's not fair. Everyone has to go to the army. We're going to. So they said, one second. Well, that's not our offer. Our offer is that we got a lot of cattle, we have children, we have wives. We're going to build places for our cattle. We're going to build a few cities here for our people. We come to fight with you. We're going to go to war. After 7 years of fighting, we're going to come back and live here. Is that fair? Moshe said, yes. If that's the real deal, if you build places for your children and your wives, if you build a place for your cattle, and you come to fight for us, I'm okay. I guess Hashem comes too. So you could stay here. And that's what happened. They promised, and so you have to keep your word. They said, okay. So they built homes for their kids, for their wives. They built pens for the cattle, and they started, getting into the army, right? We don't talk about the fights, the wars yet, because that's when Moshe dies, and Torah ends when Moshe dies. So we have one more sefer to read, Sefer Devarim, one more book of Torah, which we'll read from next week. So we're gonna finish the book of Bamidbar in tomorrow, because we're gonna read 2 parshas tomorrow. But we'll see that actually Reuven, Gad, and half of Menashe actually did enter Israel. They went. The male went. All the men went. They did the war. They came back, and they came back after 14 years. It was 7 years of of conquering, 7 years of division, because they have to make sure all the lands get divided to it, and then came back. 14 years away from their families, and they did come back. So, two important points here. You see the same message being repeated of don't cause other people to think bad of you. Because if Moshe said, if you stay here and not come, what people are going to say? They say, oh, because you don't want to go to war. Why should we go to war? Let's all stay here. We don't want Israel. The same problem. The same problem. We don't want to go to Israel. By the way, in the second parasha, we learned that there's a mitzvah to live in Israel. Unfortunately, we are not fulfilling that mitzvah. We live in America. But there's a mitzvah for every Jew to live in Israel. Ramban says that's the most important mitzvah in the Torah. If you don't live in Israel, that means you don't believe in God. You're scared for yourself. You run away. So I once asked my rabbi, why don't we live in Israel? Why in America? Such important. I said, the Parnasa is a big problem in Israel. People don't, more comfortable. Here you could work a couple of hours and learn Torah, keep Shabbat, keep mitzvot. But in Israel, it's a big challenge. It's not impossible. It's a bigger challenge. That's why people chose America. America, economy is much easier, more productive. Maybe 40 years ago, Israel wasn't so good. Now, Baruch Hashem, Israel has a good economy too. But once you're established, it's hard to move. My Rav said something unbelievable. He said, Gaon Vilna, the biggest rabbi in Europe, about 200, 250 years ago, he decided to move to Israel. He packed, he got the luggages, everything ready. He left the house, so he saw the house, he went. Middle of the way, he came back. He stayed. He didn't tell anybody. He stayed longer. And he died in Europe, in Lithuania. Lithuania was a very big Jew at the time. Before Holocaust, millions of people lived in Lithuania. Very religious community there too, big issue. Gaon Vilna was there. So my Rav said, he never said to anyone why he changed his mind. He said, I have a theory why Gaon Vilna changed his mind. He said to himself, if I go to Israel, all the religious people from Europe are going to go move to Israel. Israel will become only religious people land. It will not be a Jewish land. Only if a very religious guy go to Israel, because Gaon Vilna went to Israel, he's a religious guy. Everyone should go to Israel. Gaon didn't like that idea. He said, I want Israel to for every Jew. And he said, honestly, I don't think religious Jews can run the country. Who is going to do all the wars? We don't know how these things. You study Torah in Gemara, in school, system, but we don't know how to carry a gun, how to use a gun, fire rockets, jets, these things. Gaon, that's what my Rav says. So I think Gaon thought to himself, if you want to protect Israel, we need every Jew to be there. So I don't want to make it a religious, operation that only religious Jews should go to Israel. I want everyone to go. So they go whenever they're ready to go. But it was so, important for him to go to Israel. He actually packed his luggages. He moved out of his house to go to Israel. He said, you have to live to Israel. Why not? They say. Chafetz Chaim also wanted to go to Israel. I don't know what he changed. Maybe he didn't get a passport. He had a hard time getting a passport in Russia at the time. He said, he wanted to move his yeshiva to Israel. He said, we have to go to Israel before Holocaust. But unfortunately, Holocaust caused everybody to actually move either to Israel or to America. People are getting too comfortable in Europe. So Ramban says in his Parsha, in Matot-Masei, that the most important mitzvah is to live in Israel. So now, Moshe said, it's not fair. Don't say you don't go to Israel, because Jews are going to start not going to Israel. We want to stay here. They said, you know what? We have a better plan. We're going to come to do the war. If the war is a worry, we come. We do the war, come back. Is that fair? Yes. But you see from here, my Rav said, you see, again, don't cause other people to think something wrong. People don't know why you're doing this. People take a wrong way and they learn from you. And you shouldn't cause other people to sin. You have to explain yourself. You have to tell people, if I'm doing this, it's because of this. Or actually do it the right way for people to see You know, for example, if you go to a non-kosher place and you sit down and drink coffee, even people don't know why you're sitting and drinking. Oh, this guy went to the restaurant. Must be okay. If he goes there, I go there. I'm not more religious than him, right? People always compare themselves. If this guy, if this family goes to this place, must be okay. But they don't know what you're doing there. You're not eating their meat. You're not eating their food. You're getting, only using a bathroom. Big question, when you're traveling, where can you go? Can you get a drink, or just a soft drink from a non-kosher restaurant, middle of the road? So the halacha is, if people know people make stops in these locations to get a drink or use the bathroom, that's fine. But middle of town, nobody goes. It's not common unless you're eating there. So don't cause people to sin. Don't tell people I'm going there for what. So must be. So lama tini'un. Why are you melting other people's hearts? Don't cause people to lose faith and to lose hope. So that's very important. That's one thing I wanted to bring out from this part of the Torah. Also, Rashi points out that Moshe taught them a very important lesson. When they came up with the plan, they said, "Okay, we're gonna come do the war for you. We come back before coming to the war. We're gonna build pens, stations for our cattle, cities for our wives and children to come to the war." She said, "One second. Who comes first? You first gonna build place, a shelter for your cattle and then for your children? It's not right. It should be the other way around. First, take care of your wife and children, then go to your cattle, then go to the business part." They thought to themselves, we are staying here only because of our cattle, so they're very important. The first thing is you have to take care of our cattle, make sure our cows, our sheep, our different animals have a place to live. They're gonna be comfortable because that's where money is. Then we make sure our wives and children are okay too. But the first thing you have to make sure is our business. Moshe said, no. I agree, right? You come to war, but what should you do? Says first your children, your wives, take care of them first, then the other way around. Why? Because people are so worried about their business, they forget about their wives, about children. And even though they want to bring the wealth to spend for the wife and children, what do I need the wealth for? It's for my family. But who comes first? Many times, unfortunately, we make the wrong decision. Money has so much power that people get carried away. They forget to make the right priority. We prioritize our lives. Let's say, you're in the middle of an intersection. You could make a right to go to your home, spend dinner with your wife and children, make a left, go to another shopping, do something, take care of things, or visit somebody, or make another important visit. So which one do we do? We always say, "Oh, okay, my wife and kids can wait 5 minutes. I'm going to take care of something. Then I'll get home later." Right? Shalom. So Moshe said, that's wrong. I don't think something emergency, you don't take care of it. But first, take care of your wife and children. Your timing should go for your wife and children. What do you build first? Home for your wife or for a cattle? Which one is more important? So business. I want to establish my business. I want to make my business is growing. I'm getting customers. I have to stay longer. People can't go home because the store has to be open. The customer has to be happy. The product has to be ready. Tomorrow morning can be late. Everything has to be. So I have to stay longer hours in the store or in my office or whatever I'm doing. And the wife has to be alone. The kids have to be alone. Unfortunately, I do the same wrong thing. A person has to learn not to make mistakes. But what Moshe is telling people, this is wrong. And the Midrash says they came back after 14 years. How can you not see your wife and children for 14 years? That means if you had kids 5 years old, you come back, they're 19, they're 20, they're adults now. And the Midrash says, if I'm not mistaken, most of these kids actually went off from Judaism. They saw the non-Jews around. I don't have a father figure.
So this is because of the mistake that they made that they didn't go to Israel.
They should have, they still preferred the land on this side of the river because of their cattle,
That
right?
was on the right
That was
decision.
not the right decision. One of the commentators says that's why Moshe told them, whatever comes out of your mouth, you have to keep. Keep your nether. Why do you have to say that? You already made the deal. That's that's our treaty. You make this, I make this. You come to the land, you do the war, I give you this land. One, I don't know, I forgot the name. It says that because people are very into money, they don't keep their words. We had to make them promise again. Make sure you do what he said. Because people are very after money. If you're leaving your wife and kids alone for 14 years because you want to make sure your money grows and your business, your capital will grow and you have a big place for them, down it. Let me show it one more time. One of the commentators says that money is the worst yasser hara, the most um,
Temptation.
temptation. Why? Because it says to everything there's a limit. Food is a temptation for good food, but how much can you eat? Adultery. How many ladies can you try? There's always a limit, but money, there's no limit. 1 billion, two, 5, 10. Lottery goes higher and higher. There's no limit, right? No one can say I'm satisfied. I got what I wanted to get. When it comes to money, there's no end point. There's always another step, because money goes on top of top of money. Um that's why they sold they kind of traded their future of wives and kids for their business. And they were even good people because they did what they said. They came to Israel, they did the war. But the idea was, we pick here. Hashem never promised this part of the land. Hashem knew there's a nice piece of land on this side of the river. Hashem always said, you're going to go to the other side of the river. When dividing the land, he never talked about this side of the river. It was an addition to the land of Israel. And by the way, they were the ones who went to exile first. When the Babylonians came, Romans came, who got captured first? The people who were outside of Israel. That was another loss they had to endure because you're out of land, Israel's protection. So a person has to learn, priority. What am I doing this for? How much money do I need really? Do I really need to work harder, work not harder, but longer? That's all these things. Really, am I supposed to do these things? I say this line not because it's my own line. I read it from a book, only because the book says it. I'm going to coin the book. There's a very famous book, Chovat HaLevavot. It says people work so hard. What are you working for? So hard for. That's what the book says. It said you're working for your wife's next husband. You're going to kill yourself. Leave the money for whom? And this book, I think, was written 600 years ago. People don't get it. Working hard for what? You're going to lose yourself, your life for somebody else. You could make less and still be happy, satisfied, and enjoy your life and spend time with your wife and family and do mitzvahs. You have time to do a mitzvah, to go pray, keep Shabbat, keep holidays, because you don't have to work all the time. But again, as Chachamim say, money never ends. Gaining money never stop to it, and unfortunately, everyone is his own level. People get carried away with their business, and business becomes their baby, obviously, because they work so hard for the business, and they forgot that the real mission in life is not the business; it's their wife and their children. This is what I really should be focusing on. But people, I'm talking about myself too. I mean, a shul shouldn't be my baby. Wife, children, those are the priority of people's life. My friend was in a speech. He said from There is a famous rabbi, I forgot his name. I have one of his books here. From it's right here. I'm going to Rabbi Wine. Rabbi Beryl Wine. Rabbi Beryl Wine is a very accomplished rabbi. He wrote many books. He was a rabbi in Florida, I believe, in Miami, somewhere. He moved to Israel. He has thousands and millions of recordings, articles. Very good speaker, big historian. Very one biggest historian in Jewish era nowadays. You know, he knows every country, every decade, every year, what happened before this. Unbelievable person. And he has a master's in law from a university in Florida. I think he was a lawyer for a couple of years, or his parents wanted him to be a lawyer, so he did practice for a little bit. So they asked him, "What's your accomplishment in life?" So he could have said, "My bestseller, books, maybe the top 4, top 5. This shoe, this seminar, this shoe, that shoe, this project, that project." Yeah, but he's very old. He's about 90 right now. He has a lot to brag. He said, "My top accomplishment in my life with my wife, my these many children I have, my grandchildren. These are my top in my life. Only them. Baruch Hashem, they all keep mitzvahs. They're God-fearing people. My grandchildren are Jewish. They go, they practice. This is my accomplishment. My children, why not about the books? Yeah, many books, very good books. I said, forget about those. That's not my accomplishment. I'm very happy to have them. My accomplishments are my children. Exactly the opposite of when God Reuven Chasim Menashe. They said, our accomplishment is you have to grow the business. We have cattle, we need a big land. This is what we have. Trust God. Your business will grow in Israel too, but you don't have to leave your children for 14 years. But we make decisions, and some decisions still just for the rest of our life. It's not like, tonight I'm going to eat dairy or meat. I'm going to go this restaurant, that restaurant. They're important decisions in life. And priority in life is the most important decision a person makes. And a person has to get used to it. How to prioritize a person's life, decisions, right or left. What can wait, what cannot wait? What's going to stay with you for next year or next 5 years, 10, 20 years, what's going to be flying the next day? So Moshe told a very important lesson. Don't build homes for your cattle first. Make sure your wives and children are taken care of. That's something you have to all keep in mind. Okay, so there are some of the points. There are many more. But 7 o'clock we have to proceed with Mincha. Okay, Shalom Aleichem. Korban Neshama, Shalom Aleichem.